Have you ever wondered why there are certain people who are struggling with anxiety manage to overcome this and make this all part of the past? And then there's also a different type of person who still stays stuck. No matter what they do, they can't manage to overcome this. What's the difference? Is it just that somebody just has a more unique type of anxiety or harder to treat anxiety? What's really going on? Well, in this video, I really want to share with you this one thing that people are often missing. Now, the truth is that if you're following this channel, you'll see people that say, Shaan, thank you so much. Finally, somebody explained this to me. I managed to overcome my symptoms. I'm back living again. And at the same time, you'll get different people saying, well, he didn't really say anything in the video. I don't know how to overcome this. And what you'll often find is you'll see both types of people in the same video. So what's going on? So in this video, I want to break down this one thing that people neglect that determines whether they're able to recover or not. So with that said, let's get it started. So before we get started, I'm not really going to break down the mechanics of anxiety. If you really want to know that, I have a free ebook down below that breaks down how to focus on the recovery journey, understanding a little bit more of the mechanics. In this video, I really want to talk about what is the thing that separates the people that read the book from people that actually take action from it. And that's going to be a big part of this video because there are some people that just aren't able to recover and they're thinking their anxiety is super unique or they're somehow different. And then there's other types of people who manage to overcome this and make this all part of the past. Now, when I was going through the anxiety recovery journey very early on, when I was struggling with panic attacks, I was getting intense physical symptoms. I kept going to the doctors. They said, you were fine. It's just anxiety. I actually stumbled across this book that I recommend everyone read, which is Hope and Help for Your Nerves by Claire Weeks. It was a book that really helped explain what was going on. Now, here is the ironic part, okay? I read that book very early on in my recovery journey. Yeah, and so when I was going through my recovery, when I was trying to figure out what was going on, I read that book. Now, you would think if I managed to read that book that I would have known, oh no, it's just anxiety, and then I move forward. But what actually ended up happening was that I ended up struggling with anxiety for at least another year. For another year, I was still struggling with intense physical symptoms, intense intrusive thoughts. I wasn't sure what was happening. I was going to all these different doctors. I was going to all these different specialists. I was going to all these different naturopaths, and I even started going into like more alternative medicine, maybe even going towards spirituality, anything I could do to get better. And the reason why I did that is even though I read Claire Weeks' book, I liked it. And I said, you know what? This is very helpful for somebody who's going through anxiety. I am not going through this. And the purpose of me telling you the story is that the reason why you see people who are struggling with anxiety, who manage to stay stuck, and then there are certain types of people that are struggling with the same type of anxiety, manage to overcome it and go back to living, is this one thing. And that one thing is receptivity. The truth is that when people are struggling with anxiety, let's say if you're struggling with intense physical symptoms like dizziness or the lump in the throat sensation, or you're experiencing intense DPDR or intrusive thoughts, you're doing everything to fix that symptom, right? You're doing everything to, how do I stop my thoughts? Or how do I overcome this fear? Or how do I stop having a panic attack? Any tips or any tricks? So what happens is that you're very focused on overcoming that symptom, and any other information that people give you, you're just not going to be receptive to it because you're so goal focused. Your only sole purpose is to eliminate the symptom. And I understand this. The symptom sucks. You want to overcome this. But something interesting happens, which is because you're so hyper focused on eliminating the symptoms, that's what keeps people stuck. Now, somebody who's struggling with the exact same symptom, instead of focusing on eliminating the symptoms, what they do is they take a step back and they just say, okay, what's even going on? Why am I experiencing these symptoms even though the doctors cleared everything? Why is this happening? And so what's happening is that you have two different types of people that are coming at it in two different ways. One is just very goal focused on doing everything to make this go away and make this go away as quickly as possible. And then there's another type of person that's saying, wait, look, let's just see what's happening. Can I understand what's going on? Now, the truth is the second type of person is more receptive to understanding what's happening. See, a big part of overcoming your symptoms, people think is just like, oh, okay, just tell me what to do to overcome the symptom. It's not one thing that you do. There's a lot of things that have to be taken care of before you actually focus on the symptoms. One of the biggest things is understanding what's happening. Because even if you try to fix a symptom, if you feel like a symptom is dangerous, if you feel like it's going to hurt you, if you're avoiding it, if you're doing all these different things, even if someone tells you, hey, do this, you won't do it with the right intent and you'll do it in a wrong way. It's like if you've never known how to use a screwdriver and someone just gives this to you and you just start screwing in nails and stuff like that, it's kind of pointless unless you know how to use it and really understand the mechanics of what is a screwdriver and what's the purpose of it. Well, then it's kind of pointless. And that's the thing about anxiety. What I always tell people is before you even focus on eliminating the symptoms, I know you're very goal oriented because you want these symptoms to go away. They're very uncomfortable. It's something I wanted to do. I wanted to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And what happened was I tried everything. It didn't work. And I just was like, well, what else is there left to do? So what I had to do was take a step back and really see, okay, what's happening? And so what I would say is open your receptivity. Focus not so much on trying to make the symptoms go away. I'm having this, oh, I feel really bad about it. And instead, focus on, okay, what's even happening? Let's just take a step back. Before we try to fix everything and get our hands involved, let's just go ahead and take a step back and just observe. Why am I experiencing these symptoms? And that's a great litmus test, by the way, when people join the mentorship and I'm guiding them, I fundamentally ask them, why are you experiencing these symptoms? And what I often find is people can't really explain why. They don't really know why they're experiencing the symptoms. Now, if you want a quick answer for why you're experiencing these symptoms, the shortest answer is you're experiencing this because your nervous system is sensitized. Again, if you want to know more about that, check out that ebook down below. But what happens is that before we even focus on eliminating the symptoms, just take a step back and see what's going on. A lot of people say knowledge is power. I agree, knowledge is power. Once you understand what's happening, then focusing on eliminating the symptoms will be a lot more effective. But it's very important that you take a step back and you really see what's going on. Now, with the idea of receptivity, I actually want to shift the focus a little bit, okay? I wanted to talk about something else, something that's a little bit darker and something that I think a lot of people that help people with anxiety understand very clearly. And it's something that if you can understand, it's really gonna help you on your journey too. I would say anxiety healers know this more, but it's important as you going through the recovery journey, understand this as well. And I learned this very early on when I was helping people through the recovery journey, but it always manages to surface up, which is this, right? What happens is that when you're focusing on overcoming your anxiety, you're poking at something that doesn't want to be poked at. And that thing is your anxiety. It does not like not being in the driver's seat. It wants to be in the driver's seat. And the purpose of that is, historically, if your anxiety stayed alive, you stay alive. And if there was something that caused your anxiety to spike up and get into the front seat, well, what that's going to do is that they're not going to want to move to the back seat. They're going to be very focused. Your anxiety is going to be very focused on staying in the driver's seat. And so a big part of recovery is you're essentially poking at it to make it go back into the back seat, right? Because at the end of the day, you're the driver. Your anxiety works for you. Your brain works for you. Your nervous system, your body works for you. And so something interesting happens when you're poking at the anxiety. Anxiety doesn't like that. And what it's going to do is that it's going to throw everything at you in order to stay alive. And you see this a lot. You'll see symptoms change. People will find that as they're going through the recovery journey, their symptoms change, or they'll find other things to have anxiety about. And what anxiety is essentially doing is that it's trying to do all these things to fundamentally stay alive. Now, here's the interesting thing. One of the things anxiety does is that a huge part about anxiety recovery is letting go of your ego. And when you're poking at something and you feel more defenseless or not as protected, well, then your ego might overshoot. And something interesting happens is that sometimes it will make people the enemy, right? So people that are trying to help you, it turns them into an enemy. And I've had this happen. People I've been helping through the recovery journey, what they will do is that as we're focusing on the recovery journey, we're poking at making something go back into the back seat. What happens is that people's ego comes up, and what happens is that their defensiveness comes up. And fundamentally, this happens is people have to learn to let go with the anxiety recovery journey. They have to let go. And they're so used to holding on that if you try to get them to let go too fast, what happens is they'll hold on even tighter. And what anxiety does is that it will find ways to stay alive. And so one of the ways it will try to stay alive is try to convince you that this person doesn't know what they're talking about or this person's the enemy. And the sad truth is that I know I've experienced this the mentors in the mentorship have experienced this. I know other anxiety recoverers who help other people have experienced the exact same thing, which is anxiety will turn someone into an enemy just so it can stay alive. And here's the darkest part about it. I know I don't want to get too dark into it, but what happens is if somebody gets convinced as we're going through the recovery journey that, let's say, Shaan doesn't know what he's talking about, or Shaan doesn't know, well, then what happens is now, if I try to give them even help, if I tell them exactly what to do, if I'm telling them exactly, if I'm talking to them directly, not even in a video, if I'm talking to them directly and saying, do this, they're not receptive. And now, because they're not receptive and they won't listen to what I'm saying because they've convinced themselves that, Shaan's the bad guy and actually I'm going to do this instead, or whatever it is, well, then what happens is that my hands are tied. And that's a big part about the anxiety recovery journey. We can give you all the tools, but if you can find reasons for why this isn't going to work, well, then that's what happens, and anxiety just finds other ways to stay alive. So to fundamentally wrap up this video, the biggest difference that you'll find with people that are stuck in the cycle and people that are recovering is that they're more receptive to information, to knowledge. If you're too goal-oriented, if you're too focused on overcoming the symptom, well, even though you're getting information that's useful to you, you will discount it because you're just so focused on eliminating the symptom that you completely miss the ball. And so a big part is once you get everything rolled out by your doctor, once you've been told it's anxiety, take a step back and just really fundamentally ask what's going on, why are you experiencing these symptoms? And the second thing is recognize, once you're going through the recovery journey, recognize that anxiety is going to try to find ways to stay alive. It's going to do everything it can to convince you that this is not an anxiety problem, this is something else. And what it will do is that it will convince you it's something else so that anxiety stays alive. Don't fall into that trap. I've seen some, unfortunate stories when it comes to that, when people end up going their own route when, clearly we were guiding them through the journey. And then what always ends up happening is months later, they end up saying, oh my God, I made such a terrible mistake. Oh my God, can you go back to guiding me? And, I know I'm talking a little bit more closer to the mentorship, but I know just in terms of anxiety healers, it's something we deal with because, you're poking at something that doesn't want to get poked. And this is part of the recovery journey. This is part of the healing process, is letting go of these things, the ego, finding ways for why you're unique, or following your feelings, I always say, and just focusing on trusting somebody to guide you through the recovery journey. Yeah, so find somebody that you really trust that can guide you through this, and have them guide you and trust them through the process. So anyways, I hope this video helped. I hope it clarified some things. I know it's a very nuanced video. My videos are getting a little bit nuanced. I hope it makes sense. If I find that it's getting a little bit too disconnected or unrelatable, because sometimes these things, people start noticing it once they're more advanced in the recovery journey, I might tone it back, but for now I'm going to be talking a little bit more about these things. So let me know what you think in the comments. And like I said, I have free resources down below. I have a Facebook group. You can follow me on Instagram. There's obviously more YouTube videos here. I have that free ebook. And we also have the mentorship where we're directly guiding people. Yeah, if you want to apply for mentorship, just make sure you've looked through everything else, because there's so many resources that might be able to help you alone. And look through that, get a real good idea of what's happening, and that way, even if you do decide to join the mentorship, you're going to be more ahead, and you're going to be able to pick up the process a lot faster. So I hope this video helps, and I'll see you in the next one.